has captured your attention that you wish to pose to him on this one. You may do so, and then I'll go to the next one.
Yes. So, with this 2-day strike from the union, from the BUT, they're having a lot of critics talking about the parties and the politics involved. That the fragmentation that we see coming to the forefront between the BUT and the BSTU, it goes deeper into partisan politics. How you would respond to that?
Well, I am not aware of anything like that. Indeed, if it is something that exists, we as trade unions, when it comes to the political side of things, we believe that we have, even though we may address the issues, that may come out of it, we try to stay away from the political remarks and so on. What existed was merely something that was no secret to Barbados or to anyone or any platform that we would represent our membership at. We have been, this is an issue, and I'm certain that the General Secretary will tell you, this is an issue that has been on the table for many months, right? And it wasn't about politics then. It was about workers' rights and what was fair.
I can extend to that, and I think we need to put to bed any myths or notions that the trade union movement, specifically the Congress, is in any arrangement for any political entities, and therefore we understand our role. The trade union cannot divorce itself from politics. Politics is part of the course. Partisan politics is something completely different. But you will understand that politicians will always try to create an atmosphere that gives an impression when they want to suit their interests. Any particular trade union that aligns itself with a political party, that is their right. That is their right. We cannot dictate for a trade union. Neither will we vilify, abuse, or condemn a trade union for doing what it wants to do. But all we are asking, that we are a matter of principle, that we stand under the labor movement, that we understand the nature of what we are doing, and we are going to give representation to the cause of trade union members, particularly if we are talking about the teaching profession. If we are all singing on the same contract, the same terms and conditions of employment, and we are thinking about any breaches or any violations of those, it is expected that we'll have a principle and a common position. We might differ in approach and strategy, but it cannot be that we cannot give support to something when we realize that what is the legitimate contractual agreement that stands for the employee is being breached by the employer, and without the process being completed using the industrialization process. There is a time in any negotiation that you have to determine when enough is enough. And any right-thinking person would not believe for one moment that 11 years is not the appropriate time to treat a matter, especially when that matter has been adjudicated upon by the courts. And I think that is only fair in the circumstances. If it were any union that had a matter of that nature, this Congress would support. Why? Because that organization would have been satisfied, had gone through the process of negotiation, and coming to a point when you have exhausted all options, then you have to do something to press your case. It might be a little bit fortuitous when you hear about negotiations are continuing. Until when? Ask yourself the question, until when? And if you are in a negotiation and the parties are totally not singing from the same hymn sheet, as in this case the Ministry of Public Service and the Ministry of Education, no one taking responsibility, just saying that they support but no action, then what are you going to do? Are you going to wait till the 12th of never, to when everybody has become extinct, everybody's exited the system, and then 30 years down the road try to deal with it? And you have to be mindful that these strategies may be just to simply frustrate the process. And if the unions have to represent the interests of the members, it is really simply, it should be fair to say, give them the opportunity to do what is right. Take whatever legitimate protest action that they may feel will help to prevent the particular grievance that they have at the time. And it's in the, I would like to think that the employer has a responsibility to respond. And in this case, I believe that the responsibility of the employer, if they are serious, is to come to the table with a proposal to the union, in this case the Barbados Union of Teachers, to seek an amicable agreement as to how this matter should be finally resolved. But you cannot be blaming somebody for championing their own cause and using the political platform and biases to condemn them for standing up for their own rights.
So you feel like the non-support from the BSTU kind of like weaken the industrial action?
Not at all. The BSTU has done what it has to do. I don't think it has weakened anything. I think the teachers in the system who have been impacted by this are very mindful of what it is. I think it's only a matter of time when you will probably hear those teachers come out and speak very vociferously about the position that they're in. You see, it is all right for some to conveniently duck on the cover. All right, but when you lose what you have as a right or privilege, you know people that, like when you get mashed in your toe and it hurts, you scream. So if the inevitable happens, I'm sure those people will be hollered for murder because somebody did not do what they had to do to ensure that their protection was secured.
But how does it reflect on the overall union movement though?
As my president said earlier, if we are in a movement together, there are principles that we should stand on. You should have to stand for something. And if you know something is wrong, if you can go and march for something that has nothing to do with you, how dare you not stand up for something that impacts on you and your members? It seems to me that if that happens in any labor environment, that there's a level of hypocrisy, a level of partisan behavior that's totally unacceptable that's being portrayed. But whoever is the person who is the perpetrator of such behavior. So it causes us a little moment to think, how serious are we as a group of representing the interests of our members? That's the question that is being raised.
You're saying that you're not BS, you did what had to do, but CTUSAB position is that they should have done something different.
I never say that. I never say that. I say that. No, that's how you read what I said. I make it clear that we are speaking about a principle, standing up for a principle. And a principle in this case is a principle that affects teachers, whether they are members of the BSTU, BUT, or any other union that represent teachers. It's a common principle. It is an entitlement which teachers have in their contract of employment, and if it is being arbitrarily removed, then you have to say that that is not right. That is something that you cannot accept as being fair in the process. So if a particular union opts not to stand up for its members, then that union has to tell its members why it is doing what it has done. That is not for CTUSAB or any individual person to condemn. That's for the members of that organization to question why the leadership has taken the position it's taken. Whether it's BSTU, JPS, whatever it is, I am not identifying with the union. I am very general in my comments.
Okay. But in all fairness, I mean, I think Carlos asked a pretty good question because the first address made by Mr. Phillips, he spoke to this call for unity, right? So is that to suggest that there is not unity?
But that was from a general perspective. We're looking at the industrial relations landscape. You know, you have heard me mention, send out a call for all unions and all staff associations, because as we know, there are many staff associations in Barbados that are not a part of CTUSAB, and we just want to call them home. We recognize that there's a need for unions to understand fully, you know, that they can be a part of CTUSAB who has the ability to represent at a national level, to take their issues to the national table through the social partnership. So that call, in a sense, does not indicate that there's a how you would have put it just now in terms of this unity, in a sense, with the Barbados Union of Teachers and so on. But it's just merely a call for associations to come to the fore. I would have said also that, that their decision is one that should be respected. And that's how CTUSAB feels about that.
I don't want to come away from here wrong.
Yeah.
So I just want you guys to be very clear.
Yeah.
I understand that you're saying you respect the position of the BSTU. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to get the opinion of CTUSAB on the stance taken by BSTU, because we have a situation where you said, Mr. Pisa, there's a sickle involving the rights of teachers. So I mean that was stripped from them in 2014, teachers. So primary schools, secondary school teachers and so on. We have one union taking a stance, and we have another union that also represents teachers not joining the two-day sickle for whatever reason.
Not supporting them.
Not supporting it for whatever reason. Ms. Redmond said it was a case where she did not think that the protest action was necessary given the stage that negotiations were at. So from your perspective, frankly, what do you feel about the move made by the BSTU to not join? Did that hurt the overall movement, the perception of, and so on? Because the public perception was, well, how can you have two unions representing teachers, one going left or one going right? It's like something's happening.
But something that is to be made known. This matter was a matter that concerned the Barbados Union of Teachers. It was not a matter that the BSTU didn't carry the matter to the court. The BUT took the matter to the court. The BUT was a negotiation with the Ministry of Education Transformation. The BUT was in negotiation with the Ministry of the Public Service. I am not aware of the BUT and the BSTU sitting at any table to discuss this matter. So where the BSTU got involved, I cannot speak to that. The fact of the matter is that even if the matter did not involve the BSTU, one would have expected, based on the fact there's a condition of service that teachers in the system-wide have as a part of their contract, that if there was any attempt to remove a fundamental part of the teachers' contract of service, that the unions would be speaking in a common voice on a common cause, because it is a violation of the person's contractual obligation. That is where we stand. The support CTUSAB gave to a member unit of CTUSAB who came to it with a legitimate matter, which it helped it to, well, in terms of giving guidance and so forth. That's what we're there for, and we provided that. We didn't make the decision. That's not CTUSAB's role. Every member unit has autonomy. It makes its own decision. But we supported the matter because it was a matter which we saw a principle was being violated. And the Congress, I'm speaking of, not me as an individual. So the issue here, we do not know whether the BSTU membership sanctioned the positioning of the BSTU, but we are well aware that the BUT membership gave the mandate to its leadership to take a particular course of action. So one would feel a little bit aggrieved, because if a matter like this, we should believe of such importance to teachers, wouldn't you believe it would be the most decent thing to do for the two unions to come together to have a discussion, but for the BUT to be invited to a meeting a week ago about 10 o'clock at night, as far as I understand it, and to turn up on the morning to find the BSTU or to be told it's part of a meeting when they were never part of a discussion. Do you think that is the appropriate way to conduct business? And then for the BUT then to go and make a statement that they are non-supportive of an action, which means that they had been fully briefed about this matter in order to make and to give an opinion and to state publicly their intentions. I don't know what stage they had any meetings on it, But that is for you to go and find out.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Can you read Ralph Clements' piece? Ralph Clement. He works Colin every week. And the way we saw it, he's saying is an archaic system we terms lead.
Now, I can stop you right there. I can stop you right there. I would assume, for the number of years that those persons spend in the system, all those who spend 40 years or more in the system would have benefited from maternity leave, not 1 and 2. So to come and tell me now that archaic is that persons who are honestly not being fair. You got yours, but then when it comes to what to get yours, you telling me what archaic. And colonial, give me a break.
It's what money. Remember that part?
But there's too much, it was too much money when you got yours. So what's good for the goose and good for the gander?
Just one question. You made a comment pertaining to this whole politics. The Minister of Education would have said that there's politics involved in this whole thing. I want to ask a question. Either one of you can give me a response. When it comes to politics and union representation and so on, I want you to speak to the duty of the individual to be non-partisan, to be responsible where you hold a position. Because once again, you have Tony Moore, who is the General Secretary of one union, and the Prime Minister has recently Saturday pointed to Pedro Shepherd, Nathaniel Seeley, different people who are involved in politics, well-being, holding senior positions in unions as well. So that's a person's right. I'm just saying,
constitutional right.
Can you speak to what is the moral responsibility of a person to handle both things independently?
You ask a tough question because as we have all accepted, a person has a constitutional right, and that right you can choose whichever organization which you want to associate. You know what is the word that you're asking me to tell you? The word being having a conscience. Everybody has to have a conscience. Everybody has to know what is right and what is wrong. How far you can go and how far you should not go. Anytime that you put yourself in a position where you have to serve 2 masters, then inevitably there's a conflict of interest. You have to decide at what point you are going to go. I always refer back to the 1991 crisis, when there were 4 members of the Parliament of Barbados, trade union leaders, who had to make a decision. Remember that decision well? And those 4 goody gentlemen had to decide either to vote for the government or to vote against the people who put them in office and whom they represent. And 4 of them, and you know the 4 very well, the now very eminent Sir Roy Trotman, Bobby Morris, and of course you remember the Evelyn Graves and boy from the APW. What they did, they jumped ship. They did what their conscience told them, people first, who paid them, who represent them. Same thing in politics. There are several people who have walked through I can speak to the Barbados teachers because of I'm rare. But look in the trade union movement, you see several members of trade unions have gone into politics. Nobody stops them, but they too have to know how far they can go. And you know what? I say that at the end of the day, the people who elect them as their members have to say whether they are happy with what they are doing or whether they are not happy. And if the member decides you decide that you want to be a politician, then be a politician. The members will vote the way they want. So I do not want to sit down here and condemn or ridicule anybody for being a trade unionist and a politician. But I'm going to say to you, you have to know to whom your loyalty lies. They cannot be in the church and the chapel at the same time.